Greetings. My name is Cameron Miller, and this is Trinity Place in Geneva, New York. And this is a reflection on Thanksgiving, though it is the last Sunday of Pentecost. Almost every year at this time, I cheat. Because the lectionary, you see, counts this Sunday as Proper 29, or Christ the King Sunday. The Gospels selected for each year on this Sunday all have to do with the juxtaposition of Jesus' torture and execution with the reign of the cosmic Christ in the variety of ways that gets imagined. But I cheat, and I use the readings for Thanksgiving instead. I do it because Thanksgiving is so profoundly more of everything than Jesus is king. Honestly, Jesus depicted as a king is blasphemy. Blasphemy. I don't say that lightly. I'm going to shift to Thanksgiving in just a minute. But I'm going to climbed up on my theological soapbox and tell the world how wrong our tradition is. The blasphemy I'm speaking of is symbolized in those church crosses, many of them altar crosses, on which Jesus is crucified, clothed in the garments of a priest and the crown of a king. Christ the King. The art I'm talking about is not a crucified Jesus, a no naked, sagging body gasping for air or slumped in the posture of death. This Jesus is a king, arms straight out in the shape of a cross. He seems to be levitating there inside a red chasuble and a priest's stole and a crown. Always the big fat crown. It's blasphemous because Jesus was not a king. Jesus was anything but a king. Jesus died as an insurrectionist, a guilty criminal. He rejected coercive power. He rejected religious authority and demand for conformity. He rejected images of royalty to be used for the holy. Everything about Jesus was a denial of human power and a refutation of political and cultural hierarchy and a prophetic embrace of the humble table around which we eat as the metaphor for God's presence. And so the prosecution rests its case against the church for its embrace of emperors and empire as metaphors for Jesus or God or the reign of God. Thanks for listening to my rant. Now, Thanksgiving. Mary Oliver starts that poem, "My work is loving the world." That's a sumptuous poem. And from that opening line of "my work is loving the world," I think what she's doing is rephrasing Jesus' priceless lilies of the field advice given to his friends. Now, interestingly, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Muhammad, Francis, all had famous words that come down to this: our work is loving the world. They each mean something slightly different when they say it because they spoke from within different cultures and points at different points in human history, but in all of them they echo one another. Jesus says, seek first God's kingdom and what God wants, then all your needs will be met as well. Now, he does not mean that as a result of our work loving the world, we'll get the house or car we want. That's a kind of sick theology that exists out there, prosperity preaching and all that stuff. That's not what he means. He does not mean that as a result of our loving the world, we will get the job or the fame or the love we want. He means that if our first work is loving the world, the rest of that stuff, whether we get it or not, will not matter so much. And that's what the rest of those spiritual superheroes say about it too. But most, if not all of us, live our lives backwards. We get what we wanted, and then we're grateful. Jesus and the others are saying, be grateful, and then live. Be grateful, then live. Even though each of us usually live life backwards, and all of us anyway have moments of genius in which we live the right way around, or at least the right way according to Jesus. We are grateful, and then we live. We live with gratitude in some moments. And when that happens, we feel different inside. We open up, and suddenly we see the lilies of the field as if for the first time. We open up, and we taste our food and smell it, and are amazed at how wonderful it is. We open up, and the colors of the world all around us pop out as if our cataracts have melted. We open up, and tears well up in our eyes because we love someone so darn much. You know what I'm talking about. When we're grateful, then live. The goodness of even the very small things fill us with appreciation. And when that happens, then the things that seem so big and so important suddenly seem less so, at least in that moment. Now look, I know that there's a bunch of stuff that we are not grateful for, and we shouldn't be either. There can be people and things in our lives that sometimes seems like they're just killing us. And we don't need to pretend that we're grateful for them. But when we are grateful then live, instead of being grateful for getting what we wanted, then even the stuff that we're not grateful for begins to feel a little different. Not better, not good, but a little smaller. A little more surrounded by the other stuff. But when we're grateful, then live, instead of the other way around, both the good and the bad begin to kind of shrink into perspective. Now, I dare say that all of us have known someone who is grateful first, then lives. He or she is so affected at loving the world that their gratitude is rooted in the things, not in the things that they get, but rooted in their bones, in their flesh and blood, rooted in their loving the world. If we know somebody like that, we know how much we love being around them. Just being in their presence can be healing. Just being with them helps us, in the moment, be more grateful like that. Well, I'm pretty darn sure that if Jesus actually does have a kingdom somewhere, then first, he doesn't call it a kingdom. And secondly, it's permeated with gratitude. It is a place where it's impossible to live backwards. To get, then be grateful, rather than to love the world. Be grateful, then live. Well, in case you're not feeling grateful right this minute, this is the end of the sermon, so feel grateful for that. If our work is loving the world, we are grateful even before we get. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. and peace be with you.